to Relished. I'm Alli. I'm a nutritionist and yoga teacher and author of the Smoothie Book. And I'm here to talk to you every week about nutrition topics. This week we're talking about Parmesan cheese. Lots of interesting information about the history, the background, what it's used for, what we consider imitation Parmesan, some health benefits, and an amazing recipe for savory French toast. I put it in the chat. So, welcome to the show. Super excited about today. And please, if you have any questions or comments, put them in the chat. I love having conversations during the show. So, please say something to me. Bring in some topics about Parmesan or some questions, some comments. I'm here to talk. So, let's get started. I looked up because I know some people say Parmesan, some people say Parmesan. So I looked it up today, and the dictionary said it is pronounced Parmesan. So I usually say Parmesan. So if you hear me switching back and forth, I'm just getting used to saying Parmesan correctly. So it's Parmesan. I've got my Parmesan right here. We'll talk a little bit about what this is, because this is American Parmesan. So, lots of interesting information. So let's start off. What is Parmesan cheese? Parmesan cheese is the name of an Italian extra hard cheese with a nutty, strong flavor, made of skimmed or partly skimmed milk, cow's milk. And it's aged at least 12 months if it's officially Parmesan. Some say 24 months, but most of the things I read said months. Most of the things I read said 12 months, one of them said 24. So somewhere in between there. At least 12, we'll say that. And it has a hard, pale golden rind, and then a yellowish brown interior. A little bit more. The original Parmesan cheese is called Parmigiano Reggiano. And those words can be interchanged if you're talking about true Parmesan cheese from Italy. We'll talk a lot more about that in a bit, but what I'm talking about. So those words can be interchanged if we're talking about the official. There we go. Parmigiano is the Italian adjective for Parma, which is a region in Italy, and Reggiano is the adjective for Reggiano Emilia, which is another region. Parmesan cheese labeled Stravecchio, this is interesting. Stravecchio has been aged at least 3 years, and if it says Stravecchiones, it's been aged 4 or more years. It's produced, so Parmesan cheese officially, the true Parmesan cheese, is produced in Italy, in the provinces of Parma, Reggio Emilia, Modena, partly in Mantua, and partly in Bologna. So Parmigiano cheese typically contains cheese crystals, like little gritty spots, which I've noticed that in my Parmesan cheese before, and I never knew exactly what that was. But those are little proteins, particular the amino acid tyrosine is those little gritty crystalline pieces. So that's kind of the info on what Parmesan cheese is. Let's go into the history and some more general information about Parmesan. So the original Parmesan cheese is considered one of the most expensive cheeses in the world, and it has been called the king of cheeses. I like that. And according to Wikipedia, as of 2017, about 3.6 million wheels of Parmesan are produced every year, and that is about 18% of all the milk from Italy. That's a pretty big chunk of product there. So legend has it that Parmigiano Reggiano, aka Parmesan, was created during the Middle Ages in Bibbiano, a province in Reggio Emilia, which is in the area that we talked about, the Reggiano, where Reggiano comes from. But then the production soon spread to Parma, and that's where we get the Parmesan and the Parmigiano Reggiano terms. Okay, so each wheel has very strict criteria that it has to follow in order to be called Parmesan. The criteria has to do with the aging process, especially when it's still young, when it's soft and creamy, the cheese. And then it gets its official seal of approval and is placed in storage for aging after that. Within the European Union, the term Parmesan can only be used by law to refer to actual Parmesan or Parmigiano Reggiano, which it has to be made in a specific place and follow specific guidelines. So it's very strict if it is officially called that, similar to champagne. You know how champagne, the beverage, has to be made and produced in Champagne, France. And it used to be that bourbon could only be made in Bourbon County in Kentucky. I think that's changed, but you know what I mean. So Parmesan has to be made in a very specific region to be considered officially Parmesan in Europe. Areas outside of Europe, it's a little bit more open-ended. It can be more generalized. Like any Italian-style cheese, like a hard grating cheese, can be called Parmesan. That's why we have it here in the U.S. But in Europe, it's very different because of the EU. Very official. After the EU ruled on this officialness of Parmesan, that you couldn't actually use it as a generic term in Europe, Kraft had to rename their grated, in the green container that, you shake on popcorn or whatever. They had to change their name to Pomacello in Europe. Thought that was interesting. In Italy, the DOC, which is basically the organization that marks the origin of a product, kind of like copywriting, I guess. The DOC laws preserve the integrity of a lot of Italian foods and beverages and products to ensure the quality. So the DOC, per their regulations, Parmesan and Parmigiano Reggiano can be considered the same because of these strict rules. Okay. Because it is widely imitated, Parmesan has become a very regulated product in Europe. And since 1955, it became what is known as a certified name, not a brand name, but a certified name, similar. So that's why only certain cheeses can be called Parmesan based on where they're made. In 2008, an EU court determined the name Parmesan in Europe only refers to Parmigiano Reggiano, and it can't be used for imitation Parmesan. So special seals identify the product as authentic with an ID number of the dairy where it was made, the production month and year, and a code identifies the individual wheel and stamps regarding the length of the aging. So very, very official. Parmesan is mostly used for grating over pastas and things like that in Italy. And it's termed, like a more general term for Parmesan is grana, which means grain because of its granular textures inside the cheese. There's also another cheese called Grana Padano in Italy, where it's made in a different region. So it's similar to Parmesan, but different because it's made in a different region. So I feel like I've seen that cheese listed in items at restaurants and things like that in Italian restaurants here in the US. So just something to know, something interesting. I'm going to take a drink of my beverage here. It's 100 degrees here in Seattle, so it's a little warm. Okay, so what is Parmesan used for? Well, it's mostly, like I was just saying, grated over pasta dishes, added to soups and risottos, and eaten on its own as well. It's usually shaved or grated. We also put it on salads and pastas as well. Slivers and chunks of the rind are sometimes simmered in soup to give it like an extra richness. And this is interesting. Sometimes the rinds can be roasted and eaten as a snack. I would really, really love to try that. I have not heard of that before, and I would be very interested in doing that. Okay, so let's get into what generic Parmesan cheese is, kind of basically as we know it in the U.S., is Parmesan. So I wanted to look at the cheese that I have, and it says it has been aged over 10 months, so we know for sure, because of that, it's not official because it has to be at least 12 months. And it also says it was made in Wisconsin. So we know that this is U.S. Parmesan. This one says it's vegetarian. Sometimes they use animal rennet in it, so it isn't technically vegetarian, but this one is. I would still eat it if it wasn't vegetarian, but this is it. And, okay, so just some information about that. So generic Parmesan is just any family of hard grating cheese that you can find, made from cow's milk and inspired by the official Italian Parmesan. So it's generally pale in color, that's true. This is pale in color. The rind is a little bit darker. I don't know if you can see that color difference there. And it's usually grated in the US anyway, on pasta, over Caesar salad, and on pizzas. I grate it over every salad I make almost in this house. We eat a lot of Parmesan cheese. So I put it in dressings, I put it on our salads. Sometimes I grate it over the greens, then toss the greens, add the dressing, and then put more on top because it's just so delicious. Okay. American generic Parmesan is often sold already grated, which that's fine. It's usually better to buy it whole and then grate it yourself because a lot of times the pre-grated has a lot of like additives in there to keep it fresh. So it's not super pure, I guess, but you know, if you have to buy the grated, then to save time, that's totally cool too. But if you can, and if you have the time, do it. And we use, very handy, I have my drawers right here. I use a microplane and I grate the cheese with this pretty much daily. Okay, so most of the time American Parmesan cheese has not been aged for 12 months. John, besides human beings, can you tell me another animal that drinks the milk of a different species? I don't know about that. I'm not sure. Okay, so let's see. So anyway, like I said, this says it was aged over 10 months right here. So it's not official, but anyway, most American Parmesan has been aged 10 months or more. And it's often called different things. Parmesan, just like we saw, and Parmigiana, Parmesana, Parabam, real Parma, Parmesan with a Z, and Parmesano with a Z. So all of those are pretty much the same. The name Parmigiano is used in parts of Italy for the Grana cheeses that don't meet the designated origin requirements. So those are considered, I guess those could kind of be considered generic or imitation Parmesan, but it also can just be called Grana or Grana Padano. So, let's see. Most versions in the U.S. have been aged for at least 10 months. Parmesan is also made in Argentina and Australia, like it is in the U.S. The official people say, of course it's not as good as Italian, but I'm sure it is just as good. I think the U.S. version is just as good too. So, there we go. But it is made in other parts of the world as well. Okay, so health information. There are 4 benefits of Parmesan that I found. I'm sure there are more, but that's that. So number 1, this is really cool. I didn't know this. Parmesan cheese is naturally lactose-free. So if you are lactose intolerant, you can tolerate it. So generally, if you know that you can't, then that's fine too. But it's lactose-free. Pretty cool. Number 2, Parmesan is a good source of some vitamins and minerals, including calcium, phosphorus, sodium, potassium, magnesium, and vitamin A. Number 3. Parmesan is a good source of protein, especially for vegetarians. The protein is easily digested, in particular from here. Parmesan provides large amounts of good quality proteins, and they have all the essential amino acids, so some consider it a complete protein. So there are non-essential and there are essential amino acids. We need the essentials. The non-essentials our bodies can make, but it's good to get all of them. So it has all of them. And since it contains all essential amino acids, it's considered a complete protein. That's great. And during the maturation months when it's aging, the proteins in the cheese go through a process similar to pre-digestion, which means that a lot of the proteins are broken down into smaller compounds, which means our body can absorb them better. That's also probably why the lactose is not there anymore, because it's been partially digested. Pretty awesome. I thought that was really cool. And number 4, Parmesan may help prevent osteoporosis. It's good for our bones. Parmesan cheese is a good source of calcium. Each serving has 26% of our daily values. Parmesan is classified in Europe as a functional food, which means in addition to it having vitamins and minerals, it also has medicinal benefits because of the casein. So the casein is a protein, which we'll go into. When casein is digested, it leaves mineral residues that enhance the absorption of other minerals like calcium, iron, and zinc. And because this calcium has become more bioavailable, it can help with osteoporosis because our bodies can absorb it more easily and support good bone health. It also has phosphorus, which is essential for bone development. Good stuff. Okay, so are there risks in eating Parmesan? Not a ton. It's not so bad. There are some sites that say, because it's a hard cheese, if your cheese does have mold on it, you can cut that piece off because it's very unlikely that the mold has traveled to other parts of the cheese. Do what you will with that information. Some people wouldn't want to, but I read on a couple of sites that was a benefit. So anyway, and really the only risk is if you have a casein allergy. So casein is found in milk products. So if you are allergic to casein, which they find that is typically more common in children, and a lot of children can grow out of that allergy, but if kids are having a reaction to it, then probably don't eat the Parmesan. So that's pretty much the only risk. So let's make some savory French toast. I am super excited. I put the link in the chat. Hopefully you can see it. You can find it on relish.com, and it's by Serious Eats, and it's actually a long title, but I shortened it. It's called Savory Cheese Crusted French Toast with garlic and Parmesan. Yum. Okay, so I've got all the ingredients ready. I'm going to warm up the pan, so it's not going to take too long to prepare. So I'll put it medium. Okay, got all the ingredients here. I got some really good looking bread. This is sourdough. It basically says any kind of hearty bread. So I did sourdough. Okay, so we're going to start off with milk. I cut this recipe in half. So it calls for 3/4 of a cup of milk. I'm doing half that. So we've got milk in our bowl. Can you see that? Yes, you can. Okay, I've got milk in the bowl. 1 egg. Crack it in there. Great. And crack it over this. So we can just have all the things we need. And what else? Red pepper flakes. I'm just going to do a little shake. How much is this in? A pinch. So we'll just do a little pinch. Okay. Salt and pepper. Love salt and pepper. Salt. I like the salt grinder. And pepper grinder. And garlic. Yum. And fresh parsley, which came from our garden. Rafael, my husband, is a very good gardener, and we always have fresh herbs, especially right now. Okay, because it's summer. now I'm whisking this mixture together. It's looking good. Nice herb mixture. And then you sprinkle some Parmesan cheese on a plate. We're going to crust the bread with the Parmesan. Alright. So, now it's just like regular French toast. We're heating the pan. I'm going to put a little bit of butter in there, because that's what it says to do. The butter has melted in our house because it's so warm. Our thermostat says 85. Okay, so we're going to dip the bread in this egg mixture. Dip it on both sides. Probably could have used a bigger bowl, but this will work. This will work. Okay. Oh yeah, that looks nice. The herbs make it look so pretty. Isn't that nice? Okay, then we're going to press it into the Parmesan. I love this. Have you ever had grilled cheese where you put cheese on the outside too? So good. Okay, and then I'm going to just sprinkle it on the top here just to make it easier. Okay. So, it's got cheese on both sides. This is going to be so good. This is going to be our dinner tonight with a little bit of bacon. Okay. Now, I've heated the butter in the pan. Oh boy. Oh boy. This is exciting. My hands got a little dirty, but that's cool because it's going to be a delicious meal. Okay, let's take a drink break. We've been drinking a lot of sparkling water in our house the past several days. Okay, so it's cooking very nicely in here. So if you don't follow me already on Instagram, I will be posting pictures of this. All right. I'm going to put my Instagram right here in case you don't follow me. There we go. There we go. Follow me if you don't, because I post all the recipes that I make every week on Relished. And every single one has been good. So check out Relished, check out relish.com, because that's where I get all of my recipes, and they are all super, super delicious. Okay, this is going to be a little happy hour. We're going to taste test it at happy hour at our house today. Oh my goodness. Yum. It smells so good. It says it takes about 8 minutes to cook. I'm going to put a little bit more butter in here so it doesn't stick. Alright. This is so good. This is very exciting. Okay. Savory French toast. I have never had savory French toast. I guess maybe like those French sandwiches, the croque madame or croque monsieur. I guess that's kind of savory French toast, but not officially like this, where you're just eating the bread. Yeah, that's looking delicious. Looking very, very, very good. So let's review. Parmesan in Europe has to be made in a very specific region, in the Parma region, in the Reggio Emilia region. And it has to go through strict processes to be considered Parmesan, or Parmigiano Reggiano, which those names are interchangeable. Here in the U.S., that word can be used very loosely. It's inspired by the Italian version. Typically in the U.S., it has been aged for at least 10 months. In Italy, it has to be aged at least 12 months. And, oh my goodness, I can smell the cheese cooking. Hopefully it's nice and browned. And, okay, here we go. Kind of sticking, but that's good. I like cooked Parmesan. It's getting nice and browned. Yum. Okay, so the health benefits, just in review. The health benefits are it's lactose free. Great. It has lots of vitamins and minerals, including vitamin A, magnesium, potassium, sodium, phosphorus, and calcium. It is a good source of protein, and the protein is pre-digested in a way because of the way it's processed, so our bodies can absorb it better. It can absorb nutrients better as well. And it may help prevent osteoporosis because of the calcium and because it is considered a functional food. And it has the essential amino acids, which are important for proteins. And we need the essential amino acids. We can't make those ourselves, so they're considered essential. Oh yeah. Look at how crispy that Parmesan is getting. Yum. Yum, yum. Wow. So then, when this is finished, you take it off, put it on a plate, sprinkle a little scallions or green onions, and a little bit more parsley, and you cut into it and eat it. Have a little glass of wine with it if you like. So this is going to be really good. Okay. That's it, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining the show today. Can't wait to try this recipe, and I can't wait for you all to try it too, because it's pretty awesome. It smells so good in our house. Have some Parmesan cheese. Lots of good things about it. Doesn't matter if it's from Italy or from the US. Maybe it does to some people, but just have some Parmesan cheese. The ones from here is probably just as good for us. So, anyway, but it's kind of fun. I want to look for the official ones too. Okay, so thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you again next week, and hope you have a great day. All right, bye for now.